Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Chat, Stats, and Fun Facts, a 2025 season preview brought to you by the Drive Pink Dialogue. Today, we are talking about a new goalkeeper, Rocco Ríos Novo, potentially number 3 on the depth chart, potentially number 1 in your heart. I think a lot of people felt that way after his initial performance against Club America in Inter Miami's first preseason game. Saur, what is the first thing that comes to mind when I say Rocco Ríos Novo?
Prince of penalties. That's what comes to mind. He really did save a couple. Won us that game potentially. Well, Santi Morales did, but he did his job. He was good in that game, but I don't know if I agree with the rest of the fans about him being the number 1. I was very surprised to see such positive things about him, to the point that I had to go back and watch the Club America game. He was fine. He was good. It was his first game for Inter Miami. He did fine. And
well, he did have a mistake that led directly to a goal. So I don't know
which
about mine.
We ended up capitalizing on. We won the game regardless. Not a big deal. We forgive and forget.
The thing is, if you don't give up that goal, then you can't have a dramatic equalizer in the 99th minute. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And then you don't become the penalty prince by saving the penalty.
Then you could have had a 99th minute winner instead of an equalizer.
True. Anyways, that also meant you would have had to go to bed early, which we all know you don't like to do. So it's fine. It's fine. We forgive him for that.
I think we're talking about different people here. 2024 season for Rocco Ríos Novo. He was on loan at the Phoenix Rising. For those that don't know, that's a USL championship side. That's the second division of U.S. soccer in the U.S. soccer pyramid. He started 34 games, conceded 41 goals, and had 12 clean sheets, which I thought was a good number of clean sheets, to be honest with you. But that's in the USL. I don't really have a comparison for what that level is. He's 22 years old, turning 23. So he, I don't know what he's doing here, and I guess that's what I want to talk about. He played here's my fun fact. He played 16 MLS games for Atlanta back in 2022. So he has MLS experience. He started the last 2 years in the USL Championship. So he has been a starting number 1 goalkeeper for the last 2 years at a lower level. He has experience as a starter in the MLS. He's on loan from Lanús in Argentina. He is American, so he doesn't take up an international roster slot. But this is a young goalkeeper that's been a starter for the last couple of years, and it feels like he's coming in to be the third string, and it's very weird to me. And I know we sort of had this conversation about him on the podcast, but I think it's just time to rehash it because I don't know what else there's to talk about. This is the only thing on my mind with this guy.
The one thing I can make sense of in terms of Ríos Novo is it would have been a different conversation if we didn't sign Oscar Ustari and if he was the second choice goalkeeper. I think that would have made a lot more sense. American coming in, maybe doesn't get that many minutes, but can compete for minutes, potentially an upgrade in Ciche dos Santos. That would have made a lot more sense. I could have seen him be a second choice keeper, and I could have seen him making that decision to come into Miami to be the second choice keeper. But as of now, I think according to you and me both, he is the third choice. He is third in the pecking order, right? Drake Calendar, potentially a number 1. Oscar Ustari is going to compete for the number 2. So you're absolutely right to ask the question, what is he even doing here? And I have a feeling that they didn't expect one of these goalkeepers to be here. Ríos Novo was already guaranteed that he's going to be brought in. And now we're stuck with an extra goalkeeper because one or the other deals fell through. I mean, that's what I'm contemplating. This is all speculation, but honestly, good for him if he wants to be third choice.
Ríos Novo joined Inter Miami after Ustari had re-signed, and clearly whatever plans they had with Drake Calendar, the plan has been to stick with Drake Calendar since before Ríos Novo signed. So I don't know if he came in thinking I have a chance to be the number 1 guy. I don't know if they told him. Maybe they told him we're going to have a 3-way competition. I guess that's possible. In our heads, we've been having it sort of Ustari versus Drake. And by the way, these are 3 very different players at different points in their career, where you have a young guy trying to break out, a prime age guy that's been the locked-in guy for the last couple of years, and then a truly older veteran that's just stability. But Ustari has real quality. So we've been thinking about it as it's a 2-way battle between Calendar and Ustari, but maybe they sold him on the fact that it would be a three-way battle, and then he had a chance to be the starting goalkeeper for a team that included Lionel Messi. I don't know. I'm just saying that to say that might be a reason, but I think in everyone's mind, he really is number 3. And that is confusing to me because if you are a 23-year-old goalkeeper, you want to be playing games, even if it's at a lower level, so you can continue to develop as a player and continue to grow your stock as a prospect and all of those things. And sitting on the bench for a year and maybe playing for Inter Miami too is like not really doing that, especially if he has plans to one day become the goalkeeper for Lanús. I don't know. Maybe his plan is to come in and really impress, get bought by Inter Miami, and then be Inter Miami starting goalkeeper in a year or two. But it just feels very weird. And it doesn't feel like Inter Miami is going to be developing a goalkeeper from within during the Messi era. So I'm very confused about this. I'm glad he's here. He has real experience, and that's a huge benefit. I mean, he has more experience than most 22-year-old goalkeepers. But again, like, it's cool. It's awesome. I'm glad he's here. I feel better about him than I would have about Cole Jensen, who had no experience. But it's just weird to me. That's all it is. It's just weird to me.
Yeah, and I think this conversation is more intriguing than I thought it would be, just because there's a lot of questions about it. And you might be right about him being promised that you can compete for the minutes, because Javier Mascherano has stated on record that there's no preferred first choice goalkeeper. Whoever performs will be the first choice for that game. So it really is up in the air with that. And second thing might be that we are playing a lot of games. We have a lot of competitions that are available.
Not for
Maybe
the
he
third
gets a run
choice.
out in the US Open to see how he might perform.
Well, he will for the B team.
Yeah. And he might get a run out in the Leagues Cup, perhaps.
But
Maybe,
that feels like that's a number 2 goalkeeper thing.
yeah,
right? Like that's
that
what you
does
said.
feel
It
like
would be a
number two.
different conversation if he was going to be the number 2 and it was going to be goalkeeper A and then him as the number 2. I think that does make a lot more sense because you can promise him the Leagues Cup. You can promise him, a few games here and there and, the exposure of playing with Inter Miami. But that doesn't really exist for the number 3 guy because the number 2 guy gets those opportunities. So if he really is coming in to be the number 3 and everyone expects him to be number 3 and then he just loses the job within his first month of being here and he ends up being number 3, it's like a tough situation for a young kid. And so I don't want to put that on him, but it just feels weird to me. And so I feel like there's something else here. And the more you look into it, the more you think about it, the weirder it feels and the weirder it seems to me.
There's only
at
one
least.
explanation. He wanted to come play with Messi. He liked the Inter Miami project and he was like, I'm going to bin everything. I don't care about anything. I don't care how many minutes I get. I get to play with the best player in the world, even if it's for one game. At least I have that on my career highlights. So maybe that's the case. But honestly, at this point, we're just speculating. I won't be mad about having quality in this squad. So if he performs well and if he does well for whatever minutes that he gets, I'm happy with that. Great for him. Glad to have him on board. And we'll see how it plays out. I think it's going to become a lot more clear once the season starts what the plan is, because still the preseason window, the transfer window is still up there till
Yeah, you're
April.
right.
So there might be a few changes in and around. And this conversation might be a lot more different once the transfer window closes. So we don't really know what the plan is there. But as of now, all I can say is welcome on board, Rocco Ríos Novo, and I'm sure you're going to have a great time at Inter Miami, and hopefully you get a few minutes.
Yeah, I think you do bring up an interesting point that maybe I think at the beginning of the offseason, the plan was not to have Drake or Ustadi around. And I think as it unfolded, we've ended up with Drake and Ustadi and Rocco Ríos Novo. And that feels like what it's going to be. But that could change. And he could find himself as the number 2 or potentially. And once you're the number 2, you're only one injury away or you get those Leagues Cup minutes or whatever. So you're right. But as we stand right now, it feels weird, and I don't know what else to say about it other than it's nice to have a third goalkeeper that has this much experience and quality. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We haven't seen him enough to say exactly what he is as a player.
Hey,
really
he can
saw
say
one game, but
that's all that matters.
Yeah, well, in the Leagues Cup, that could matter too,
You know
right?
what?
Not in the regular season.
Javier Mascherano might pull off a Louis van Gaal and switch goalkeepers at the
Just-
end of extra time and just send him on as Artem Krul. You never know.
I will say he is 5'10". He's on the shorter side for a goalkeeper, which is not the profile of keeper that generally is great at saving penalties. You know, you want those long, lean, quick guys, but maybe he's the exception. I don't know. Okay, predictions for 2025. Over under 0.5 appearances for Inter Miami. Does he get minutes for Inter Miami in 2025? I will remind you that as we speak, it's Drake Callender and Oscar Ustari also on the roster at the goalkeeping position. They feel like number one and number two in whatever order you want to put them in. And Leagues Cup is an opportunity for number two. But when you're talking about the Club World Cup, when you're talking about the CONCACAF Champions Cup, when you're talking about the MLS playoffs, you're going with number one. And maybe there's an MLS game here or there that you can get the number two in, but doesn't feel like there's going to be a lot of minutes for number three. So 0.5 appearances for Inter Miami in 2025 for Rocco Ríos Novo.
Higher. I'm going to go over 0.5 appearances. I have a feeling he's going to get at least 3 or 4 games, which is a decent amount for a third choice. And maybe this conversation is completely redundant because our goalkeeping department looks different by the time the transfer window closes. So I want to still win and I want to hedge my bet. So I'm going to go over 0.5.
No, to me, it's just a matter of if he becomes the number two or not, because I think there's 0 minutes for the number three.
A third choice, yeah.
And so I'm going to go under here. I do think it's going to be Drake and Ustari, and that might change in the summer, but I don't think it's going to change for Rocco Ríos Novo. So I think he's going to get under. I don't think we're going to see him this year. I think we're going to watch him in the U.S. Open Cup for Inter Miami B, and I hope he, has some penalty saves and we can go far in that tournament and make it exciting. But I don't think we're going to see him for the A team this year unless we have a rash of injuries or something. So I'm going under. My last question is this a one-year thing? He's on loan from Lanús this year, but I think Inter Miami has a buy option. Like, is this a thing?
Too far to think about. Honestly, at this point in time, you don't even know
Okay,
what the goalkeeping
so let me rephrase
situation
that.
is, so.
What do you think would lead to him being retained long term?
If he shows promise and talent that he can actually become Inter Miami's number one in the next year or two, for that he needs games.
In training,
he needs to play. Yeah.
Do you think if we don't see him this year, it's a 1 year thing?
Yeah, of course. Doesn't make sense to have a third choice of that much quality, and I wouldn't expect him, having played so much already, to just sit on the bench as a 22-year-old. You want to play at the end of the day, so it does make sense.
Yeah, and there's a lot of teams in the MLS he could have been the number two for, I would imagine. Anything else on Rocco Ríos Novo? I know this is a little bit shorter, but he's the number 3 keeper for all intents and purposes. And it'd be cool if he earned his way up the depth chart and we got to see him and he was fantastic. But I think that's where we're at right now with him, at least.
Yeah, and this conversation may sound a little bit skeptical. We have a lot of question marks, but at the end of the day, he's an Inter Miami player. So every time he's going to put on that shirt, we're going to be behind him and we're going to support him. So hopefully he has a few good minutes to show for, and we'll see what he's made of. But welcome to Inter Miami, Rocco.
Yes,
Ríos Novo.
welcome to South Florida, and enjoy your stay for however long it is. Guys, we will see you in the next one. Have a wonderful day. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day.